Very interesting new report from the Daily Beast about how that executive order that Trump signed withholding payroll taxes for businesses temporarily has now been turned into a major campaign ad against him by the Biden campaign. And actually, according to the Daily Beast here, talking with the Biden campaign and looking at some internal data and strategists and more, this is one of those sleeper issues where when they play the ad has been dramatically successful. So much so that they're investing quite a bit of money in it. Now, the ad itself picks up on how payroll taxes are being used to fund Social Security. It's kind of being played as a Trump is trying to defund Social Security campaign. Obviously an issue very dear to seniors and people who are Gen X. Let's take a listen to the ad and we'll discuss.
The chief actuary of the Social Security Administration just released an analysis of Trump's planned cuts to Social Security. Under Trump's plan, Social Security would become permanently depleted by the middle of calendar year 2023. If Trump gets his way, Social Security benefits will run out in just 3 years from now. Don't let it happen. Joe Biden will protect Social Security.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Look, I think it's a fair hit because not only has Trump done the executive order to suspend payroll tax collection for now, but he has said that he wants to continue that and wants to make it permanent, and that is what goes to fund Social Security. So I think it's a fair hit as far as these things go. And it's interesting, too, because you recall in the Democratic primary, when Bernie actually hit him a little bit on this in advance of Iowa, it actually landed, right? Because Joe had, David Sirota, much to everybody's chagrin, dug up some clips of Biden that were readily available on C-SPAN being like, I voted to cut Social Security. I voted again and again. And that really actually landed, made an impact. It also may solve a little bit of a mystery here because the polls seem to have tightened a little bit nationally, but Biden has been having some good battleground state polls. We know that he's outspending Trump significantly on the airwaves. It does make me wonder if messaging like this is part of why in those battleground states where they are seeing this messaging, part of why he's actually outperforming what the national picture looks like.
I think it's a very smart strategy for the Biden campaign. And this was my main criticism against it at the time, which is, look, I mean, you could just pay, like the payroll tax thing. First of all, it's not going to do anything because a lot of these businesses are not going to withhold payroll tax or, give it to you if they're going to have to pay it back in the future. Just going to put it in a bank in escrow or something like that and wait until they owe it. But second, payroll taxes are great. They're one of the most equitable taxes that we have. They're actually, if you look around the developed world, how do people pay for social services? Through payroll taxes. It's because it's a way for all of the population to buy into certain payroll programs. You can see exactly how much you're paying into Social Security, and you'll see exactly how much you get out of Social Security if people our age even ever get to get it. But that's a different story. And Social Security is a program of immense popularity, of immense benefit to elderly Americans. And so by removing and defunding it, so to speak, or at least appearing to screw with it, all Americans, everybody out there can remember their first paycheck where they're like, wait, I have to pay this much into Social Security. But they realize what that payroll tax is. They understand why it is being deducted. So whenever you remove it, now, you might say that, it's a benefit to workers, but it hasn't really materialized. Elderly Americans know what that means. And that's why I think it's a very devastating attack. And also, I don't think the media realizes this because they're not interested in policy.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, too. Yeah. It's interesting, too. I mean, it does show some savvy on the Biden team's
very much so.
part. He's talked about it a little bit publicly, but that they're kind of, feeding this into their messaging, and it's landing with seniors, obviously. I remember looking at some polling a while back that if you just look at seniors and their top issues, Social Security is at or near the top consistently. Yeah. It's one of the top concerns that they list. Trump really inoculated himself against these type of attacks last time around. It was very clear. This was one of the things that he did to distinguish himself from like your standard issue Republican. I am not going to cut Social Security and Medicare. He's very clear about that. This time he's opened himself up, not just with this payroll tax cut thing, but he has repeatedly given them this ability to make this talking point and open himself up to these attacks. And so I think it is a real vulnerability for him. Look, if Biden wins, it's going to be because seniors swung to him over Trump. A lot of that obviously has to do with the coronavirus response, but this type of messaging helps a lot as well.
It certainly does. A very smart move. We'll continue to keep you guys updated. I think that probably their best ad of the cycle so far.
Yeah, it could very well be. All right, we'll have more Rising for you after this.